They had spoken before at office gatherings, nothing beyond polite conversation. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. They exchanged greetings, small talk, weather, traffic, work stress. Then there was a pause, a long one. Mark shifted his weight and lowered his voice, as if choosing each word mattered. "I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way," he said. She laughed lightly, assured him it was fine. That's when his expression changed. "I just wanted to say, I've been a little concerned about Daniel." The word concerned landed heavier than she expected. Her smile faded slightly. Not gone, just uncertain. Concerned how? Mark didn't rush his answer. He glanced toward the hallway, then back at her. "He's been quieter lately," he said. "More distant. Not distracted exactly, just carrying something." She felt a flicker of defensiveness rise. Daniel was allowed to have quiet days. Everyone did. Mark continued, gentle but firm. "He stays late more than he needs to, and when we ask if he's okay, he always says yes, too quickly." That detail stuck. Too quickly. She thanked him for caring, assured him Daniel was probably just tired. Mark nodded, but his eyes said he wasn't convinced. "I just thought you should know," he said. "Sometimes the people closest don't see the weight until someone else points it out." That sentence followed her all day. She gave Daniel the lunch. He smiled, kissed her forehead, thanked her like everything was normal. But something felt different. She watched him eat, noticed how his eyes seemed elsewhere, how he laughed a second too late at her jokes. That night she lay awake beside him, listening to his breathing, wondering when she had stopped really looking. Had she missed something? Their conversations lately had been practical. Bills, groceries, schedules. No depth, no emotion. She had assumed it was just a phase, life getting busy, time moving fast. But Mark's words replayed again and again, carrying something. The next morning she asked Daniel how work was going. He said fine. Same answer as always. Too quickly. She didn't push. Not yet. Instead, she started paying attention. The way he rubbed his temples after dinner, how he stared out the window longer than usual, how his laughter sounded practiced. Small things. Quiet things. The kind that only matter once you notice them. For the first time in years, she wondered if love alone was enough, if comfort had slowly replaced connection, if she had been listening without hearing. And standing there, watching her husband tie his shoes before work, she felt a strange ache. Not fear, not anger. Understanding trying to form. Something was shifting, and she could feel it. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. That night, she made a decision. A small one, but important. She would ask the questions she had been avoiding. Because sometimes it takes an outsider's concern to open the door to a truth waiting quietly at home. And once that door opens, nothing stays the same. She didn't bring it up right away. Not that night, not the next morning either. Some conversations need space before they're ready to breathe. She watched Daniel more closely over the next few days, not in a suspicious way, in a tender, curious way, like rediscovering someone you thought you already knew. He still kissed her goodbye every morning, still asked if she needed anything from the store, still thanked her for dinner, but the warmth behind those gestures felt thinner, as if something unseen stood between them. One evening, rain tapped softly against the windows. The house smelled like warm soup and fresh bread. It should have felt comforting. Instead, the silence felt heavy. Daniel sat on the couch, scrolling on his phone. She sat beside him, holding a mug with both hands. Her heart beat a little faster than usual. This was it. "Can I ask you something?" she said. He looked up immediately, too quickly. "Of course," he replied. She hesitated. Not because she didn't trust him, but because she didn't trust what the answer might reveal. I ran into Mark the other day, she said carefully. Daniel's shoulders stiffened just a bit. So subtle, most people would miss it. Oh, he said. Yeah? She nodded. He mentioned you seemed weighed down lately. Daniel smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm fine, he said. There it was again. Too quick. She took a slow breath. I know you say that, but I want to know how you really are. The room felt very quiet after that. Daniel leaned back and stared at the ceiling. For a long moment, he said nothing. She waited, didn't interrupt, didn't rush him. Finally, he spoke. I didn't want to worry you, he said softly. Her chest tightened. That tells me there's something to worry about, she replied gently. He exhaled, long and tired, like someone setting down a heavy bag. It's not one big thing, he said. It's a lot of small ones. He talked about work first, not the workload, but the pressure, the expectations, the quiet competition, the fear of falling behind. I feel like I'm always proving myself, he said, even after all these years. She listened, really listened. Then he talked about home. Not complaints, not blame, just distance. I love you, he said quickly, but lately I feel like we're functioning, not connecting. The words stung, because they were true. She nodded slowly. I feel that too, she admitted. Daniel looked surprised, as if he thought he was alone in that feeling. I didn't want to say anything, he continued. I didn't want to sound ungrateful. She reached for his hand. Being honest isn't being ungrateful, she said. He squeezed her fingers, and for the first time in weeks, his eyes softened. They talked for a long time that night. About how routines had replaced conversations, about how comfort had turned into silence. Neither of them was angry, just sad. Sad that they had drifted without noticing. I don't want us to wake up one day as strangers, he said quietly. Her throat tightened. Neither do I. That night, they didn't fix everything. There were no dramatic promises, no sudden solutions, just honesty. And sometimes that's more powerful than answers. Over the next few days, they tried small changes, walking together after dinner, leaving phones in another room, asking real questions, listening to the answers. It felt awkward at first, like learning a dance they used to know. Some moments were warm, others uncomfortable, but something had shifted. One afternoon, Daniel came home earlier than usual. He looked lighter, not happy exactly, but less burdened. Mark asked about you, he said casually. She smiled. He meant well. Daniel nodded. He did. Then he paused. You know, he added, I didn't realize how much I was holding in until someone noticed. That sentence stayed with her. Because it wasn't just about Daniel. It was about how easily people hide, and how easily love assumes everything is fine. That night, as they lay in bed, she felt hopeful. But hope, she knew, was fragile. And as she stared into the dark, a quiet question formed in her mind. What if honesty was only the beginning? And what if what came next would be harder than either of them expected? Change doesn't announce itself loudly. It arrives in small, uncertain steps. The days after that conversation felt different. Not easier, just more aware. They were trying, both of them. Daniel asked how her day really was. She asked about his thoughts, not just his schedule. They sat at the table longer after dinner. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they sat in silence that felt thoughtful instead of distant. But beneath the effort, something else lingered. Uncertainty. One evening, she noticed Daniel standing in the hallway, staring at an old photo on the wall. The two of them on a beach years ago, barefoot, smiling, carefree. She joined him. "We looked happy," she said. "We were," he replied. Then he added, "I still want that." The way he said it scared her, not because it sounded false, but because it sounded unsure. That weekend, Daniel mentioned a work retreat, 2 days away, mandatory. Normally, she wouldn't think twice, but this time something tightened in her chest. Not suspicion, fear of distance returning. "Do you want me to come?" she asked half-jokingly. He smiled gently. "I think I need to go alone," he said, "just to clear my head." She nodded. Because trusting him mattered, because giving space mattered too. But when he left that morning, she felt the house grow too quiet. She tried to stay busy. Cleaned, read, called a friend. Nothing helped. Late that afternoon, her phone buzzed. A message from an unfamiliar number. It was Mark. She stared at the screen for a long moment before opening it. "Hey, I hope this is okay. I just wanted to check in." Daniel seemed overwhelmed before leaving today. Her heart skipped. She replied politely, thanked him for his concern. Then she sat down slowly. Overwhelmed again. Hadn't they just talked? Haven't things been better? Doubt crept in quietly. That night, Daniel called from the retreat. His voice sounded tired, but honest. "I didn't realize how much I needed this break," he admitted, "but it's bringing up a lot." She listened, asked questions, didn't interrupt. "I think I've been afraid," he said. "Afraid that if I slow down, I'll see how much I've been avoiding." Avoiding what? Us. He didn't say the word, but she heard it anyway. The next day she went for a long walk. The air was cool, the sky overcast. She thought about their early years, how they used to talk about everything, dreams, fears, ridiculous plans. Somewhere along the way, they had stopped sharing the deeper parts. Not because they didn't care, but because life got loud. That realization hurt more than anger ever could. When Daniel returned, he looked changed. Not dramatically, just quieter. They sat at the kitchen table with coffee. No distractions. "I think I need help," he said suddenly. The words surprised her. "Not because I'm broken," he added quickly, "but because I don't want to lose us." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to lose us either," she said. They talked about counseling, about learning to communicate again, about facing things instead of burying them. It felt hopeful, but also scary, because growth meant discomfort. That night, she lay awake thinking about Mark's concern, how a simple observation had started all this. Sometimes love needs a mirror, but mirrors don't just show the good, they show what needs work. As she drifted toward sleep, one thought stayed with her. They were standing at the edge of something important, and stepping forward would change them forever. Healing doesn't move in a straight line. It circles. Sometimes it doubles back. The first counseling session felt strange, not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. They sat side by side on a soft couch, hands close but not touching, like two people relearning how to sit together. The counselor asked simple questions: how long they'd been married, what they loved about each other. Those answers came easily. Then the questions changed. When did you last feel truly seen by your partner? Silence followed, not because they didn't know, but because the answers were complicated. Daniel spoke first. "I think I stopped showing parts of myself," he said, "and when I hide, I can't expect to be seen." She felt that truth settle gently but firmly. When it was her turn, her voice trembled. "I think I got used to assuming everything was fine," she said. "I didn't want to disturb the calm." The counselor nodded. Calm isn't the same as connection, she said kindly. That sentence echoed all week. They began practicing small habits, checking in emotionally, not just practically, naming feelings before they piled up. Some nights were good, warm, hopeful. Other nights felt heavy. One evening, Daniel came home quieter than usual. Not distant, just thoughtful. They cooked together without music. The clatter of dishes filled the space. Finally, she asked, "What's on your mind?" Daniel paused. "I ran into Mark today," he said. Her chest tightened without warning. "Oh?" she replied, keeping her voice steady. "He asked how we were doing," Daniel continued. "I told him we were working on things." She nodded slowly. "And?" Daniel leaned against the counter. "He said something that stuck with me," he said. "He said sometimes concern is love wearing unfamiliar clothes." She looked at him. "That's true," she said. Daniel met her eyes. "I realized something today," he said. "I wasn't just afraid of failing at work. I was afraid of failing you." Her breath caught. "You never failed me," she said quickly. "I felt like I was," he replied, "by being present in body but not always in heart." Tears filled her eyes. They stood there quietly, the kind of quiet that holds meaning. Later that night, she received a message, another from Mark. Short, respectful. "I'm glad you both are talking. Daniel matters, so do you." She stared at the screen longer than necessary. Mark had never crossed a line, never said too much, but his presence lingered in the story of their healing. She showed the message to Daniel, not because she had to, but because transparency mattered now. Daniel read it, handed the phone back. "He's a good guy," he said, "and I'm grateful he spoke up." That gratitude surprised her and relieved her. Days passed. They laughed more, argued a little too. Not angry arguments, honest ones, about unmet needs, about expectations left unspoken. It was exhausting and freeing. One afternoon, Daniel suggested a short trip, just the two of them, somewhere quiet. They drove out of the city as the sun dipped low. The road stretched ahead, calm and open. At a small cabin, they sat by a window, watching the sky darken. "I forgot how good this feels," she said. "So did I," he replied. They talked late into the night, about who they were becoming, not just who they had been. Daniel admitted something that made her heart ache. "I think I was waiting for permission to be honest," he said. "But I didn't need permission. I needed courage." She reached for his hand. "And I needed to ask instead of assume," she said. They slept better that night than they had in months. But healing has a way of testing progress. The next morning, Daniel received a call from work. His expression shifted as he listened. Concern crept back in. When he hung up, he exhaled slowly. "There might be some changes coming," he said. "Nothing certain yet." Old fears stirred. She squeezed his hand. "Whatever comes," she said, "we face it together." He smiled, but worry still lived behind his eyes. As they packed to leave, she felt both stronger and uncertain. They had opened doors, spoken truths. But life doesn't pause for healing. And as they drove back toward the city, she wondered quietly, would their new honesty be enough when real pressure returned? Or was the hardest test still waiting for them? Some truths don't arrive with answers. They arrive with choices. The call from Daniel's work changed more than his schedule. It shifted something deeper. The following week, the news became clear. There would be restructuring, uncertainty, possibly layoffs. Daniel tried to stay calm, but she saw the tension return to his shoulders, the quiet worry in his eyes. This time, though, he didn't retreat. He talked. At the kitchen table, on evening walks, late at night when sleep wouldn't come. "I'm scared," he admitted one night. "Not just about the job, about who I am without it." She listened without fixing, without minimizing. "You're more than your title. she said. "And you don't have to carry this alone." He nodded, and for the first time, he believed her. They made small plans together, reviewed savings, discussed possibilities, not with panic, with partnership. One afternoon, Daniel came home earlier than usual, his face unreadable. She met him at the door. "They offered me a choice," he said. Her heart raced. "A different role," he continued. "Less pressure, less prestige, but more balance." She waited. "I don't know what to do," he said. She thought back to the man in the hallway staring at an old photo, to the silence they had mistaken for peace, to the concern that had started it all. "What do you want?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. "I want to be present," he said finally. "I want us." The decision came quietly after that. Daniel accepted the new role. Some coworkers were surprised. A few didn't understand. Mark did. He shook Daniel's hand and smiled. "You chose what matters," he said. That evening, Daniel told her everything, not with pride, with relief. They celebrated with takeout and candlelight. Nothing fancy, just real. Weeks passed. Life didn't become perfect, but it became honest. Daniel laughed more easily. She felt seen more often. They kept their counseling sessions, not because something was wrong, but because something was worth protecting. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sky fade, she thought about how close they had come to drifting forever, all because no one had spoken up. Or maybe because someone finally did. She sent Mark a simple message. "Thank you for caring when it was easier not to." He replied a few minutes later. Sometimes love shows up quietly. She leaned her head on Daniel's shoulder. He wrapped an arm around her. "I'm glad you listened," he said. "So am I," she replied. The house felt different now. She understood something she hadn't before. Love isn't proven by how little trouble it makes. It's proven by how willing we are to face trouble together. And sometimes understanding doesn't come from within the marriage. Sometimes it comes from a gentle concern, spoken at the right moment, by someone standing just outside the story. As the night settled around them, she felt a quiet gratitude. Not for perfection, but for growth. Not for certainty, but for connection. Because in the end, understanding didn't change their love. It saved it.